What's up, everybody? Benji Bruce here with the Benji Bruce podcast. And in this episode, we're going to talk about your confidence, your self-esteem, why you got to stop being so freaking humble. You see, a lot of people keep saying like, oh, be humble, be humble. But I don't think people understand the definition of humble. I don't think people actually have looked it up. Humble, the definition is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Let me say that again. The definition of humble is having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. Now, can you accomplish great things with that mindset? Can you accomplish anything with that mindset? To literally have a low estimate of your own importance in the world around you. Can you make things happen by thinking that way? Absolutely not. The definition of self-esteem is confidence in one's own worth or abilities. It's self-respect. That's the definition. Confidence in one's own worth or abilities. So they're literally like the exact opposite. Literally nobody is responsible for building your self-esteem. Absolutely no one. The world doesn't care about your self-esteem, doesn't care about your confidence, none of that. Despite what people post online about be nice and all that sort of stuff, in person, it's very different. And so they're not responsible for your feelings about yourself. You have to basically be your own hype man. You have to build your own self-esteem regardless of what's happening around you. And you have to do this if you want to accomplish anything. Because like I said, the definition of humble, having or showing a modest or low estimate of one's own importance. How on earth can you build a massive business thinking very low of yourself, thinking that you have a low estimate of your own importance in this world? Steve Jobs, he was like, look, I'm going to put a dent in the universe. That is not someone who has a low estimate of their own importance. He's like, I'm going to influence the universe, not just this one state, not just a little bit of clients. I'm going to influence the universe. That type of mindset is the mindset that's required to accomplish great things. You have to have a high self-esteem. You have to have an insane amount of confidence in yourself in order to accomplish anything. An insane amount to the point where it borderlines on arrogance. That's what truly has to happen. Because what's going to happen is if you don't, most of your problems, you'll notice that most of your problems come from a lack of confidence in yourself. Most of your problems of not being able to grow your business and all that sort of stuff, it comes from a lack of confidence in yourself. You don't do things because you're not confident in yourself to achieve the end result. There's a lot of uncertainty. Do you understand what I'm saying? You don't do a lot of things because you're simply not confident that you can get it done. And so it creates all this uncertainty. You're like, well, I don't really know. I don't know if I want to spend that money on advertising because, how do I know it's going to work? Can you promise me that it's going to work? What's wrong with you? Nobody can promise you that. You got to believe yourself, believe in yourself that you're going to make it work. That's the type of mindset you got to have. Like, look, I'm going to make this thing work. I don't care if I don't really know right now. I'm going to figure it out. That's the mindset that you got to have. I truly believe that insane amount of self-esteem damn near cures everything. Like everything. You're getting bullied. I guarantee that the only way I thought about this, I said, okay, all these bullies, all that sort of stuff, cyberbullying, like actual bully, you just punch him. But that's a whole other thing. But getting bullied, I thought about this. I'm like, look, the only solution to getting bullied is self-esteem because it only hurts when you don't think highly of yourself. That's the only time that you can actually get bullied. You get bullied when you allow people to bully you. That's the only time you get bullied. I remember, so for those of you who don't know, like I used to be an illusionist, mentalist, and all that sort of stuff. And there was these magic forums. And inside the magic forums, nowadays it would be considered cyberbullying. And apparently I got cyberbullied. I didn't know it was cyberbullying. Like at the time, I was just like, these guys are losers. Like in my head, I didn't see myself as getting bullied. But everyone on that forum was like just hating on me like a whole new level because here's this young dude coming in like, hey man, I'm getting all these gigs. Like, let me show you guys how I'm doing it. So a lot of people, they didn't believe me. They're like, oh man, no, there's no way he's getting these gigs. Oh no, there's no way. Like even one guy sent me an email. He's like, oh, send me a check that you got $10,000 or send me a picture that you got a $10,000 gig. So I sent him a couple pictures. I'm like, see? And so like, no matter what I did, they didn't believe me. And so they were like basically cyberbullying me on this magic forum. but I didn't consider it cyberbullying because I had an insane level of self-esteem and confidence, like an insane level. So whenever they said anything about me, I just thought to myself, these guys are losers. That's what I thought. Cyberbullying didn't exist because of my self-esteem. You can't get bullied unless you accept their story of you. You understand what I'm saying there? You can't get bullied unless you accept their story of you. There's your story, and then there's their story. There's a story that you're telling yourself in your head, and then there's their story that they're putting out there, telling other people or whatever. So it's like you can't do something because of whatever. That's the story that you're telling yourself in your head, right? You can be telling that story in your head. Well, I can't grow my business because I don't really have time. Oh, I just don't have time. I've got all these other things to do. I just don't have time. Oh, I can't work out because I'm doing all this. I've got work to do. And when I get home, I got to cook and so you're telling yourself this story in your head. Or they're telling their story about you. Oh, that person, he's got a big nose. Oh, look at that big nose. And so it's like there's your story, there's their story. But if you have high self-esteem, your story will not match their story. You're almost delusional to an extent. Like literally, you don't say things in terms of, oh, I can't really do this because I don't have time. In your head, you're like, okay, so I get off of work at this time. Okay, well, I got to eat something. Okay, I guess I can do it after I eat. Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll do that. And so you're not making these excuses in your head. Or let's say someone says, oh, you got a big nose. If you have high self-esteem, high confidence, you're like, okay, well, is that your fetish? Why are you looking at my nose, man? Come on. What you got problems? Like, what's going on? You got a weird fetish going on? What's up? And so it's like, there's your story and their story. You need to understand that your story needs to have such a high level of self-esteem and confidence that their story cannot compete with yours. You will never get bullied. You'll never have haters. Well, you might have haters, all that sort of stuff. But once again, the story in your head will not match their story. It just won't. So it'll just fall off you. Like whatever they say, it won't even matter to you because you're doing big things while they're talking about the things that you're doing. Average people, they want you to lower your self-esteem because it makes them feel better. It's like that whole crabs in a bucket thing. If you put one crab in a bucket, it's going to climb out. It'll easily just climb out. But if you put two crabs in a bucket or just a bunch of them in a bucket, what'll happen is when one crab tries to climb out, the other crab is going to grab them and pull them back down. That's what happened. That's how you keep the crabs in a bucket. That's what people do. This is literally what people do in this world. Well, let's say, you're trying to accomplish something, someone somewhere is going to try to pull you down in some way. If you think too highly of yourself, people will try to pull you down by calling you arrogant, saying you need to be more humble of yourself. That's what people are going to do. That's the world's way of trying to pull you down. Instead of saying yeah, go get it. Yeah, you are the best. Come on, man. Instead of people doing that, people try to pull you down in every way possible. And so if you have that high self-esteem, they simply can't pull you down. And so think about, let's say Floyd Mayweather, one of the greatest boxers of all time. His father didn't tell him that to not think he's great. Mayweather, he's like, I'm the greatest of all time. And his father's like, yeah, my son, he's the greatest. Hands down, he's the greatest. I guarantee his father did not say look, come on, son. Come on, Mayweather. You're not better than Ali. Come on, man. His dad didn't say that. His dad was like, look, yeah, you are the best. You can destroy every single one of these guys. And it built that self-esteem to the point where he became 50-0. He became one of the greatest of all time. Tiger Woods, Kobe, Jordan, Elon Musk, they told themselves different stories in their heads. They didn't say oh, you know what? No, I'm just okay. Kobe Bryant, he didn't say I'm just okay. Man, Kobe Bryant, he was like, nah, I'm the greatest. That's literally Kobe was thinking. In fact, when he first met Jordan, he was like, I can kick your ass one-on-one. That was the first thing he said to Jordan because of the story that he was telling himself in his mind. Elon Musk, he's like, you know what? They said I couldn't really build these rockets. I don't really know. Maybe I shouldn't do it. And he wasn't telling himself that story. No matter what people told him about building rockets or putting people on Mars, he's like, you know what? I'm going to do it But anyways, he told himself a very different story. That's what created this insane self-esteem. When you tell that different story inside of your head, people are going to say you're arrogant, cocky, and all that. That's equivalent to people pulling you down, the crabs in the bucket, one of them trying to pull you down. When people say that, arrogant, cocky, all that sort of stuff, that's equivalent to people trying to pull you down in that way. Successful people, they understand the mindset that you have to have in order to be great. Successful people understand you got to have a chip on your shoulder if you want to be one of the greats. If you want to accomplish great things, you have to believe that you are one of the greatest and that you will be one of the greatest. It's like Mike Tyson, right? I remember seeing an interview with Mike Tyson, and there's this other heavyweight guy named Deontay Wilder. And Deontay Wilder, he was like, oh, I'll beat Mike Tyson. And he's like, I'll beat Mike Tyson without a doubt. Like, if Mike Tyson were in his prime against me, oh, I'd whoop his ass. Like, he's talking all kinds of trash, right? And so someone asked Mike Tyson this. They were like, look, Mike Tyson, what do you think about Deontay Wilder's, what do you think about his response to that? Like, he's saying he can beat you. Like, what do you think? And now, normally you would think Mike Tyson would be like, well, absolutely not. I'd kick his ass. And everyone else, like in the comments, everybody was like, yeah, right. You can't beat Mike Tyson, all that. But what did Mike Tyson say? Mike Tyson, one of the greatest of all time, he understands what it takes to be great. He understands the mindset. So Mike Tyson, he's not trying to pull this guy down like crab in a bucket. Mike Tyson literally said, he's like, look, he's like, he has to think like that. He's like, I thought like that too. He's like, every single person that you go up against, you have to think that you can whoop them. Like that's how you become one of the greatest. You're not going to become a great boxer by assuming that, oh, this guy's going to beat me. Like, you can't do that. So Mike Tyson understood it, and he said it. He was like, look, he's like, yeah, I get it. And he's like, I was thinking the same way. Back in the day, I thought the same thing. So he has to think like that to be great. And so Mike Tyson understood it, because successful people, they understand what it takes. They understand the mindset, the confidence and self-esteem that you got to have in order to become one of the greats. There's that story in your head versus, let's say, the story that you say out loud. This is the only difference between people who are humble and people who are cocky. So people who say it out loud, those people are perceived to be cocky. People who keep it to themselves, those are the people who are considered to be humble. When you are humble, it doesn't mean you truly have like a low self-image of yourself. Like, you're not thinking, oh, I got this low estimate of myself. What really happens with successful people that you see who you think are humble, they just don't say how great they are. They believe it. They understand what they can do. They understand how great they are. They just don't say it. Whereas someone like, let's say Mayweather just says it. Mayweather's like, I'm the greatest of all time. Ali's got nothing on me. Like, I went 50-0. Like Mayweather, he just says it. So people consider him to be cocky. Ali thought the same thing. He just kept it more to himself. Well, sort of. I mean, he was saying it, but more for showmanship status. Or someone like Mike Tyson, he kept it to himself. So that's why people consider him to be humble. But in reality, in his head, he wasn't thinking like that. So there's that story in your head versus what you say out loud. If you say it out loud, people are going to consider you to be cocky. If you keep it in your head, people are going to consider you to be humble. Confidence, you got to remember, confidence comes from competence. So you develop self-esteem by knowing the truth. Like, when you know the truth about you, that's how you develop self-esteem. And the story in your head, it can't be changed because you know the truth. You can't tell Tiger Woods that he sucks in golf. You can't tell him that. You can say it all you want. He just knows he doesn't. You can walk up to Tiger Woods like, dude, you suck. He'll probably just laugh. Okay, sure. Like, he'll just laugh because he knows he doesn't suck. So you develop self-esteem by knowing the truth about you. And so this is why, like, once again, I say the bullying, all that sort of stuff, it doesn't matter. If you know the truth about you, that's how your self-esteem, like, that's how you build that self-esteem. You don't need to say it. You need to show it. That's really what you're doing. So it's like there's a difference between saying I'm the greatest versus I'm going to be the greatest. I know a lot of people think like, well, you got to say I'm the greatest. You don't really need to say that. By saying that you're the greatest, what really happens inside of your head, when you say like, I'm the greatest, what really happens is you become complacent. You don't improve because you're number one. If you're the greatest, what's the point of trying to improve? There's no one to pass. Like, you are number one. There's nobody to pass. So if you keep saying, I'm the greatest, but if you say, like, I'm going to be one of the greatest of all time, what that does, it like lights this fire inside of you. Like, okay, I'm always going to improve. I'm always going to keep doing things to stay on top. If you're like, I'm going to be one of the greatest of all time. That's why, like, someone like Kobe Bryant, he just worked his ass off, because Kobe, he was like, I'm going to be one of the greatest of all time. Michael Jordan, same thing. Michael Jordan, he was like, I'm going to be the greatest to have ever have done this. Like, without a doubt, I'm going to be the greatest to have ever have done this. He didn't say like, I'm the greatest. He said, I'm going to be the greatest to have ever have done this. And that allowed him to have an insane work ethic. So it doesn't mean that you're trying to be cocky. You're simply aware of what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's really all it comes down to. The only real confidence can admit what they're not good at. That's the only real confidence can do that. Someone who's just like cocky and just being dumb, those are the people who are like, I'm good at everything. Oh man, I can beat you in this. Like, those are the people who just, there's like no reality to what it is they're saying. But real confidence comes from people who can actually admit what they're good at and what they're not good at, because once again, they know the truth. When you know the truth, you know what you're good at, you have a high level of self-esteem, a high level of confidence, because you know you're good at it. You know the work that you put into it. And so you just know. And you have to think highly of yourself to accomplish great things. It allows you to destroy obstacles in your way, no matter what it is, people, problems, anything that's in your way. When you think highly of yourself, you move everything out of your way. You become delusional. Against all odds, you do it anyways. That's what it comes down to. Elon Musk. I mean, think about all the people who told Elon Musk, it's not possible what you're trying to do with these rockets. It's not possible. It can't be done. That's what people told him. And he just said, well, I'll show you. That's literally what Elon Musk did. Everyone's like, look, it can't be done. He said, well, I'll show you. And that's what you have to do. You become delusional. It's like the only people who will do it are the ones who believe they can do it. That's why you have to become delusional. If you don't believe that you can do it, you simply won't try to actually do it. Now, this isn't affirmations, by the way. I'm not talking about affirmations. Affirmations is when you're basically trying to convince yourself of something that you're not. You look in the mirror, you're like, I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. I'm a millionaire. You're doing that, and in reality, you got $100 in your bank account. That's when you're trying to convince yourself something that you're not. Confidence is when you know it to be true because you have a reason for believing it. Like Ali. Ali's like, I'm the greatest. I'm the greatest. Well, he said part of it was showmanship. Like, that was part of why he was doing that. But he also knew the work that he put into it to become the greatest. So he wasn't trying to do these affirmations. Like, he's not looking in the mirror all day. I'm the greatest. And then not like boxing. He would say that because he knew the work he was putting into it. Elon Musk, the same thing. He understood the science behind the rockets. Or maybe at the time he didn't understand it completely, but at the time he knew he could understand it. He knew, like, okay, based on who he was, his work ethic, he knew that he would just sit down and read all day, every day on rocket science and try to figure all this stuff out. He knew he could do it. He understood it. So he understood the science behind it. And so confidence is when you know it to be true because you have a reason for believing in it. So it's like they understand that they can get there rather than just thinking, I'm already there. That's the difference. Like, when someone who's like arrogant, they're considered arrogant and all that sort of stuff, they think they're already there. But someone who's like really confident with high self-esteem, they understand that they can get there because they understand the work that they can put into it. So you have to have a chip on your shoulder because of what it does to you psychologically. When you have this chip on your shoulder, when you build up your self-esteem, your confidence to a point where people say he's got a big ego, when you build that up, you can actually do bigger things. Beliefs are more about what they do to you rather than whether or not they're true. What does this thought do to you? That's how you really want to think. Mike Tyson, once again, perfect example. Mike Tyson, he would go into a ring and he was literally thinking, I'm going to kill this dude. That's literally what he was thinking. He would truly go into a ring thinking, I'm going to try to hit this guy so hard that I'm going to kill him. And that was the thought that he had. He's said this several times. Like, I didn't go in there to win. I went in there to see if I could literally hit this guy to a point where I could kill him. And it caused him to hit with bad intentions. It caused him to be feared by everyone who stepped into the ring with him because of this thought in his head of, I'm going to step in the ring and I'm not going to win. I'm going to kill you. And that thought, it radiated outwards and people were like, oh, I ain't stepping in the ring with that dude. And so you got to understand, like, what does the thought do to you? Because that thought, what it did to Mike Tyson, it turned him into a beast. Every single punch that he hit you with, he was like, hitting with bad intentions. He's like, look, I'm going to break this dude's ribs. And so that's how he was able to hit hard, because of the way he thought. It was those beliefs. If you believe it's possible, then you try. If you don't believe, you won't even start. So you got to remember that beliefs, it's not really about whether or not it's true. It's about what it does to you. And self-esteem, it's built through competence. It's not built by you looking into the mirror and giving yourself affirmations. Self-esteem is built through competence. It is built by you doing things over and over and over again to a point where you're thinking, well, I've done this a million times. I know the end result. Tiger Woods, he's done it a million times. He knows the end result. Tyson, he's done it a million times. He knows the end result. Elon Musk, he's done it a million times. He knows the end result. It's built through competence. So stop accepting the story that people are creating for you. You're weird. You're crazy. It's not possible. You're too old. Stop accepting other people's stories that they're creating for you and start creating the story that you want for you. Self-esteem allows you to create that story. Stop being so humble and create your story.